Hello and welcome to today's episode. I'm Aimee Schmalzle, and I'm proud to serve on the Executive Leadership Council for Autism Speaks South Florida. Every year, Autism Speaks hosts their Miami Gala event, Light Up the Night. This year, it'll be held on Saturday, October 11th at the Lowe's Miami Beach Hotel. As part of the gala, we like to take the time to honor and recognize a community member who has made meaningful, positive impact to the lives of individuals on the autism spectrum. This year, we're proud to honor someone whose work spans across education, policy, accessibility, and community initiatives. Her accomplishments include launching the Kendall Learning Academy, founding the Autism Intensive Communication Academy, securing funding for sensory rooms in public schools, and championing inclusive transportation and library services. Beyond her many professional experiences, she is first and foremost a mother to 2 autistic children. This brings personal insight and public leadership to every single initiative. It's with great pride and pleasure that we congratulate Commissioner Raquel Regalado here with us today as our Autism Speaks Miami Gala honoree.
It's a pleasure.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
Yeah, thank you for being here. I was hoping that you could tell me a little bit about your personal journey as a mother of 2 autistic children.
Well, first of all, I have to say, we're having a moment. So I am so excited that we get to talk about autism in a different and positive light, despite all the noise, because I started this journey with Isabella over 20 years ago. And as you know, the world was very different 20 years ago.
Sure was.
And when I came out, I have to say it like that because nobody was talking about it, and for people who don't know my story, I took Isabella at 18 months. My brother was dyslexic. So and my mother had ADHD. So I grew up in a family where neurodiversity was normal. And when I started my practice as an attorney, I went into patents, specifically patent litigation, and almost everyone was neurodivergent. So I just had a background where I was constantly around neurodivergent people. And for me, it was very normal. So when Isabella started showing signs at 18 months, I took her to early steps. And I said, I have an autistic child. I wasn't like, oh, do you think my child is autistic? I was like, I have an autistic child. And they were like, no, girls are not autistic. She's not epileptic. Her diagnosis was selective mutism. Isabella was nonverbal. And I was convinced. And I took her back every 3 months. I kept going back. I started reading about ABA and behavioral therapy and really educating myself on it. She had a little bit of hyperlexia. So I knew what that was. And I started leaning into that to try to get her to communicate. And then I had Sebastian, and Sebastian would have been back then diagnosed with Asperger's, super hyperlexic. I taught him to read. By a year, he could read, but very verbal, so very different. I was also convinced that he was in the spectrum. At this point, people weren't talking about that. And they were like, you're completely nuts. Not only do you not have one child in the spectrum, you think you have 2. That doesn't happen. Yeah, and I was like, no, I have these 2 kids in the spectrum. And I kept, trying to find a place for them. For Sebastian, it was a lot easier because he needed less resources. So I was able to put him in a Montessori school and kind of navigate it that way. But with Isabella, it was very challenging. We learned sign language. She finally spoke. It was very limited. I went through the whole thing with devices, that entire road. And when I finally got my diagnosis with her through the school system, I took her to the Mailman Center, and then I took that to the school district. She was in a charter school, and they said, she can't stay here. And I was like, what are you talking about? So I found myself in a position where I would go to schools and I would ask about their autism programs. And they were like, oh, you don't have to worry about those. I was already on radio at this time. They were like, you don't have to worry about those kids. They're not here. Where are they? And I started realizing I have so many resources. I know so many people. If I can't find programming for my daughter, what is going on? So I went to dinner with my father, who had just been elected mayor of the city of Miami. He was a commissioner. And I was complaining about how many schools I had been to, how difficult it was, the negative response that I got when I mentioned autism. And my dad was like, stop complaining and run for the school board. And I was like, that's a great idea. that's what I'm going to do. So at the time, I decided not to tell anyone about Isabella, that I would tell them on the 1-year anniversary, because I didn't want to make it about autism. At that point, people were like, pray it away, transfuse it away. Like, it was a very complicated time. For the moms that are now going through it, it's so different. You are blessed to have a different universe in terms of people's reaction to the diagnosis. So that's what I did. I was elected, with an overwhelming majority. I became a school board member, and I started working on the academies. We launched our first academy that first year, and really started getting people talking about autism. And then I wrote an op-ed that was published in the Miami Herald called My Untold Story, where I told everyone about Isabella's autism and that I ran because of Isabella. And then 2 weeks after that was published, Sebastian received his diagnosis. And then there were two. And people didn't believe me. They were like, how can you have 2 autistic kids? And I'm like, oh, actually it's very common. But a lot of people have multiples. So that really started a conversation where I became one of the few people that was talking about autism we're talking about 2010. Right?
Yeah.
So I was actually on the Autism Speaks board early on, and really advocating for a change in the dynamic, right? Less talking about getting rid of autism. And it's funny that we're having that conversation again. Here we are. And, fixing them, and more about inclusion, about programming, about, support for parents, and support for grandparents, and support for siblings. And then I started writing for the Miami Herald. And kind of, this is like pre-social media, I guess. I was writing op-eds for the Miami Herald detailing Isabella's progress. Since I kind of, told everyone the story, I started writing about it. And it wasn't always easy. And I tell people, as you know, the first 10 years are really hard. The first 10 years will break you. I've talked candidly about how difficult it was. I was divorced. My mother passed away. A lot of things happened to me when I got the diagnosis all at once. And I kept very good notes of that time, because I kept telling myself, like, it can't be worse than yesterday. Like, there was a time where Isabella wasn't potty trained, and she would like be ashamed of it, and she would like hide the turds, and then I put everybody to bed and I would have to find the turd. I'm not joking. Like, this was my life. Like, my life was, after everyone went to bed, I'd be like, where is the turd? Let's find it before the dog finds it, and it was just like one thing after another. Like, there was a period where Sebas was a runner, and Isabella was having a series of issues with aggression. And I think there was like a 2-year period where every weekend that I wasn't in urgent care, I was like, this is a success. And it wasn't them that was getting hurt. It was me. Like, Sebas broke my ribs, not by accident, of course. They jammed my finger in a door. Like, it was just a series of things that were constantly happening in our home that were very difficult to explain to people. And I mean, now I can talk about it, and now people meet my kids and they're like, oh my God, your kids are so great. And I was like, yeah, but there were moments there that were very challenging for me, and very challenging for my family, and educating family members about autism was very hard. Now we have resources, now we have support groups, and it's so much easier. I see now we can talk about it more candidly. But back then, I felt like every negative thing that I said would be amplified. So I couldn't really talk about the negative parts. And there were times where I was just exhausted, and I thought, maybe I don't need to reveal every single thing, that happens to our little family unit. And I remember the Miami Herald had called me about writing an article. Isabella had just done the surf camp. And I was so tired. And I felt like the kids, I was just like, I don't know how much more of this like I can do. And I broke down, and I took them to get fast food, which I already felt bad about, because I was like all into having them eat healthy. So I was just like, I'm so exhausted. I'm just going to get the fast food. So I drove into like a BK. And when I got to the window, the lady was like, you're Raquel Regalado. And I was like, yes, I'm Raquel Regalado. Nice to meet you. She was like, we have someone here that is obsessed with you. Do you mind pulling over? Because she has an autistic grandson. And I was like, sure. you know? So like we pulled over to the side, you know, and she came out and she was like, he just got diagnosed. You know, we're so overwhelmed. And I have taken every article that you have written and I've taped them up on my daughter's refrigerator. And I tell her that she can do this. And I felt so selfish. You know, I was like, here I am. I don't want to go home tonight and write again. I don't want to tell my story again. But I felt like there were people that were really resonating with the stuff that I was going through. So I went home, I wrote it, and I doubled down and I said, you know what? I'm going to do more. I'm going to do more. I'm going to change my social media. I'm going to do more. I'm going to talk more about it, you know, because somebody has to. And that set a series of things into motion. That is where we are today. And now as I see these like autism mommies kind of like take to social media, you know, and talk and share, I'm so proud of them because I really think that we are a community now. And we can talk about these things without shame and without guilt and without feeling like we're doing damage to our children. I was told horrible things when I came out. Like the first 5 years were really hard. People would stop me in the street and be like, how could you do this to your kids? How could you label your children with autism? You know, you're a bad parent. Like all of that happened. And I don't think it came from a bad place. I think it came from a place of ignorance. And I always kind of like took it on the chin because I felt strongly that I was not doing damage to my children. And I talked to them about neurodiversity. I explained autism to them. I taught them how to respond, you know, to people's misunderstanding. And now I am like the proud parent of advocates. So my children are all in on like talking about their lives. My son is actually taking a public speaking class because he wants to be an advocate for autistic people.
That's amazing.
So I mean, I couldn't be prouder, right? That I have now like raised these humans who not only are not angry at me for taking away their privacy, because I did that, but they know that their role is similar to mine to kind of educate and break down those barriers.
So talk to me a little bit about these academies. You've obviously started them because there was a major gap in the community. Where do you see it evolving today?
So back in 2010, when I started at school district, the special needs dungeon was a thing. Mm-hmm. Like that was a thing. We've come very far. At the state level, there's so many more resources. Obviously, we started with McKay, which then like evolved, and now it's like Step Up, and now there's like all these different things. And now micro schools, I think, are like entering a whole new era of this that I think is going to be very good for our kids. But when I started, really, I took the Blue Lakes model and replicated it in different places and brought in curriculum for neurodiverse children. At that point, there really wasn't, there was just like ABA and let's hope that they like behave. Right? Yeah, I know. So we started with Teach Town, which is now like the gold standard. So I actually brought Teach Town to Miami-Dade, helped other counties also do Teach Town, and started creating curriculum. Then we moved into vocational programming starting at 10. Bella was at the forefront of that. Like Bella was bagging groceries at 10. My dad told me that I was just like a bad parent, you know, because I was all about instilling in them this concept of work and this concept of that work was something that was going to happen for them. So that was like the first, like the first try. I tried to do vocational programming at the school district. It just wasn't working for me. So I actually McKay'd my daughter out to Easter Seals while a sitting school board member. So I got a tremendous amount of backlash for that, you know, but like, I was like, well, people need to do better programming, and wherever that better programming is, our kids need to go. So I really tried to push that. And I think we have been able to do that. We have a lot more vocational programming now than we did back then. And then I left the school district and ran for the county position because I felt that we needed to create the jobs. I think I was like, well, somebody has to create the jobs and create the training. And I realized at the district, starting at 14, my biggest problem was kids being Baker acted. And once they were Baker acted, it set into motion all these different things with guardianship. And once they went down that road, there was no bringing them back. Right? It was very difficult for them to do vocational training. They were now at home with HHAs. And to all the HHAs out there, I say this with love, but I don't think that that's right for our kids. No. I don't think it's right for our kids. And I know that it's safe for parents. And I know that it's comfortable and that you feel better having someone watch them at home. And I have had moments where I have questioned my own choices and thought my life would be so much easier if I just had someone at home, with my daughter. But I continue to believe that putting them out in adult programming, in vocational programming that moves them towards independence in whatever capacity works for them is what is right. And that is painful for us. I mean, I put my daughter on STS at 12. I followed the car around, for 2 weeks. Yeah. I taught my son how to use public transit. So what is the next phase? KLA is for the higher functioning. It's been a tremendous success. This is a program that I created with Miami-Dade Kendall campus, and it's stackable credentials that then involves an internship and a job opportunity. Wow. So, and some of them work part-time. Some of them work full-time. But it's really about, allowing them to enter that adult world, focusing on their skill set. So this particular program focuses on data analytics. I'm working on some other ones. There is one now that's a culinary program at Wolfson that Shelley Fano's running that we're excited about, and we need to figure out kind of what's the next step for that. But in a perfect world, I want Miami-Dade to partner and do this at all the different campuses in different areas that we know that they excel in. I'm also working with Easter Seals to focus on a vocational program that also has a fitness component.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, because a lot of our kids are having issues, with weight and nutrition and health. So I really think we need to take that on a little bit better. So I'm very excited about that program and how that's going to provide. What I want to provide is, we all know our IEPs, right?
Yeah.
So we got an IEP. IEPs are so painful. It's like everything in your life is thrown at you, and it's this 2-hour period where, you're forced to have these difficult conversations about your child's future. And I always tell, parents, it's like the worst time of the year. Is like your IEP. You have to go, you have to sit through it, you will be okay. Your child is more than this piece of paper. You just have to get through it, and plow on. But what I want to create now, what I want to create as like the normal standard moving forward for our adults over 22 is a 5-year IEP. Oh, nice. So to sit with the parents and the caregivers and program a 5-year plan, where we focus on, providing them with stackable credentials, that we don't need to have them suffer academics the way that they did when they were younger. Everybody's learned that, done that, we're good. And to focus on life skills and vocational training at different levels because it's important for their mental health. It's important for them. They understand the concept of adulthood. They want to work. And they need to be part of our community. And I challenge parents to not take away their voting rights, to not do a full guardianship. I know that that's challenging. And I know parents are like, well, what are you talking about? I'm like, it's a developmental delay. It's not a developmental decline. And the problem is that our system is created for Alzheimer's and dementia. And it assumes that the human needs protection and is getting worse. Our children are getting better. They're not getting worse.
And they need that independence.
And they need the independence.
Yeah.
And the independence provides them with a sense of self-worth that then propels them. And, for the parents that are listening that they're like, oh my God, Raquel, that's just like too much, right? I taught my kids to do a journal, and I would write down at first their achievements. And then whenever they were doing something new, I would have them go back to that. They don't need that anymore, but I did that when they were little. And I used to read them the Richard Scarry books where everybody had a job. And I would just be like, everybody has a job. And you could bag groceries and you could do this. So I normalized it, and I normalized these conversations. And, and I'll give you a perfect example. We went on vacation. People were playing water polo. I told Sam, I was like, hey, you want to play water polo? He's like, I've never played water polo. I don't know how to play water polo. And I was like, let's ask ChatGPT what the rules are. And he was like, really? I'm like, let's do it. And long story short, he played water polo. He loved it, but I try to get them to try new things. Sometimes I fail miserably. Sometimes they're just like, absolutely not, lady, we're not doing this. And it's funny because, like I tell everyone, I'm the freak at my house. They both look at me like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Because they're both neurodiverse and they understand each other. But I am constantly pushing them and they're constantly pushing me. And I will do this work, until the day that I die. This is amazing work. And I'm really honored by the opportunity to kind of showcase how far we've come, because I think it's so important for folks that just got their diagnosis, or that have little ones that are 6 and 7 and are going through those difficult years.
Sure is.
Where, you're just worried about their safety. Like, you just don't have the bandwidth for anything else. When we talk to them about work and adult daycares and vocational programs, they're just like, what are you talking about? Like, I can't even figure out today. I get that. But we need to create more of this programming so that by the time these kids get to 18 and 20 and 21, they have a lot of different options. And that's what I'm focused on now.
So you are the recipient of our Beacon of Light Award. We are very excited to offer this, and we want to know what it means to you.
It's wonderful. It really is. I started doing this work really like against all odds, and I didn't always get a good reception. My ideas were not well received at first. I think that I've always just been very avant-garde about just stuff in general, and I have persistence is my superpower, so I'll just like keep at it. And I wanted to do things a lot faster. I feel like the environment that we're in now works better for me. When I started doing this work, 20 years ago, people were like, what? So it is very vindicating. Like, I'm like, okay, like everyone's on board now. I feel like it's like, not, they see, like, I was like, see, like this was going to work out. So I'm very honored. I think you guys are doing amazing work. I think we've all come so far.
Yeah.
And we have a community. We really do. Like, not everyone, but I would say 85% of the people that are doing this work right now have become so collaborative. And it's so important because I look back 15 years ago and it was not collaborative. It was very like kind of my way or the highway. And it was challenging because you had to like, people were like picking winners and losers. And I feel like that wasn't a good place. But I think right now, we have folks that are really interested in promoting kind of this work and in changing the mindset. And we all kind of agree that there's different paths forward. And it's not at the exclusion, like you don't have to agree with me and the programming that I'm creating or what I think is the future, but we all support each other in this work.
Tell me about the work you're doing with Autism Flies. I love this collaboration that you have with Miami International Airport and American Airlines.
Yes. So
tell me more about it.
God bless American Airlines. They're wonderful. So for my kids love vacations. So I have like bougie kids who love vacations. And one of the things that I did early on is I love movies, and I was like, I'm not giving up movies. So it took me 2.5 years, but I taught my children how to sit through a movie. And I mean, it was like 10 minutes a first day, like 15 minutes a second. We just kept going back. Like it literally took me 2 years to get them to sit through a movie. Now they will sit through like a 3-hour movie and I'm the one that's leaving because I can't take it anymore. So we've come a long way. And the same thing with like vacations. I was like, I want to do vacations. I think they can do it. But getting them on the plane was very challenging. So there's a series of things. I was like, well, if we could do a dry run, if they, could go through this experience so it's not the first time. I didn't invent the program. I just like supersized it. Right. And now we have it, I think every 3 months. And like every time I can get American to give me a plane, I like take one. So I'm constantly like, moving things around so that we could do more and getting people to sign up for the wait list. And what we do is we walk them through the entire experience. So they come into the airport, they go through security, they go through TSA, we give them the lanyard. Obviously, I'm a big supporter of the Sunflower lanyard. It's wonderful. Then they wait, they board, they get their ticket, we put them on the plane, they check out the sensory room, they meet the pilot, they go into the cockpit, they have the full experience. And then, of course, we buy them Chick-fil-A after, because who doesn't love some Chick-fil-A? And that way, when they go with their parents, they know where everything is at. It comes with a social story. We have a social story in Spanish. We have a social story in English. We've trained everyone at the airport. Everyone in American is wonderful. You can actually, there's TSA Cares that we work with, but you can actually send American an email also, or you can contact them like right when you're boarding, and they will let you board early. So you'll be able to board, and that's why the lanyard helps, because it'll just cut through so many things. And now we're also working with the tax collector to get them IDs. And then now the state of Florida allows you to put autism spectrum disorder on the ID. So now you have a government issued ID that has it. One less thing. Right.
Awesome.
Doing global entry too. But so we're trying to really educate parents on, look, there's a process, right? But if you walk them through like as a dry run, it's so much easier. So you eliminate a lot of the different variables. So just wrapping things up today, where would you like to see us head in the next 5-10 years in Miami or statewide?
Well,
I want Miami-Dade County to be the most inclusive place in Florida. I think that we really are the leader. What we're doing in our libraries, our police training, our training of firefighters. Shout out to UMNSU CARD, who have totally hijacked to do this training, and the sheriff, who's very supportive. We have our decal. Like, I think we're doing the groundwork, and what I want to do is take this package of this work, right? All this legislative and all this policy work, take it to the other counties so that they can implement it. On the state side, I do want to change vocational rehab. We do have some very interesting programs. FCC is one of them, which is in waitlist. Now you can go into like an HMO and get that assistance. So there are some changes at the state level that we need to make. But what I would like to see is more adult programming that provides them with career paths, not just a job. And I know that when I say that to parents, they're like, what? I'm like, yes. I think that right now we're just looking at jobs. But what we should move towards is a career path.
It's all part of that independence story.
It's all part of the independence story. And obviously housing, we're working with Casa Familia. Mm-hmm. We're very excited about that. So, I think as we fast forward, and I'll leave you with this, what the example that I give people is 50 years ago, there were no women in the workforce. And if you would have told someone that women would dominate the workforce, they would have told you that you were nuts.
That's true.
So in 10 years, in 15 years, can neurodiverse people have a place in this workforce? Will they be a sought after group of people that employers know will show up, will be loyal, and will do their work? I say that we can do it. We need to change a lot of minds and hearts, and we have a lot of scared caregivers, but I think that we can get there, and we just have to move in that direction and really allow our children to fail. And I know that that's a hard thing, but you have to allow them to fail. It is the most normal thing. You have to allow them to fail. You have to allow them to pick themselves up again. You have to try new things. You got to push them. They are not forever babies. Neurodiversity is beautiful. And I think that as advocates, we need to believe in them like they believe in us.
I totally agree. They just need that opportunity to give it a try.
Yes.
Right. And with that, Commissioner Regalado, it was a pleasure speaking with you today. I'm so happy that you took the time to speak with us, and I can't wait to see you at the gala.
And I hope everybody joins us. It's going to be a great time. We have a lot of community partners that are coming. It really is a great opportunity to celebrate how far we've come.
That's very awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Pleasure meeting you today.